Welcome back to the James McGee Show. I am your host. I am James McGee. I don't feel like my opinion matters to a lot of people. I stated I have a platform that I give it, but I'm not arrogant to think that my opinion really matters. I think that my opinion, along with most common people's opinion, what it's worth is, I always say that my opinion in $7 will get you a free cup of coffee at your local coffee house. But I'm going to give it. I'm always give it. And what I also do is I don't try to react initially like a lot of people do. And what I'm talking about today is the military action in Iran. So I didn't say a whole lot. I issued a brief comment of probably 24 hours afterwards. And I've been waiting a couple days to give my full thoughts. I want to see how things play out because they always, if you wait a couple days, and what I've always tried to practice is detach from it, detach emotionally, and just objectively look at it. And so now I'm ready to give some opinions on it, and especially light into liberals and their self-righteousness and their incompetence. So today I'm going to give a general overview of my stance, and I'll tell you that the biggest problem we have in America, good morning, Tyler, the biggest problem that we have in America is immigration. That is absolutely my stance. And you're like, well, I thought you were talking about the war. I am. And it has everything to do with immigration. So, one of the biggest things the Democrats are yelling about now is sleeper cell. Oh, we got now that they jump on these bandwagons and they don't realize because they're stupid, they don't realize how stupid they sound. So now they're worried about sleeper cells. Well, no fucking shit, you bunch of butt fucks. You created the sleeper cells with open borders and mass immigration in the last 20 years of Islamic radicals and electing Islamic radicals to high offices in this country. This has everything to do with immigration. We absolutely should be worried about sleeper cells, but we're not worried about those things until it happens, until we get people killed like in Austin, Texas, and in Virginia. We're having people who are being killed by the people that were led into this country and kept into this country illegally. So I'm going to cover that tomorrow in depth of the biggest problem when it comes to what that we need to clean up here before other countries, to me, are secondary. We have a lot to clean up here. We got to start strongly looking at denaturalizing people that were made citizens here. There's a lot of things, and I have numbers, and I'm going to go in depth tomorrow. But today I'm going to give a general overview of where I stand on military action. I am an American first, actually American only conservative. I do not believe in regime change, endless foreign entanglements, and I do not believe we are the world's police. If you look at our recent history that goes back 20 years, we've wasted too many lives, too much money on those types of missions, Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm not interested in us repeating the failures of the past. And I do not believe that our president and his administration is also. So where I stand is I firmly believe that President Trump and his administration, they operate from America First mindset. I believe that. I'm going to give the deficiencies I feel like where they're failing right now and after this. But I honestly believe and I trust that they are not neocons. They are not beholden to the military industrial complex that is just looking for the new war to feed Washington's appetite. I couldn't help but just get disgusted when you see people like, Lindsey Graham, who's just a fucking clown, Well, he's all excited. Worse than that, Mitch McConnell can't get him to support the SAVE Act. He hasn't agreed with Donald Trump on anything. He hasn't supported anything. He has a hatred for Donald Trump and has just blocked. Look at all the confirmations of his cabinet that he tried to block and sided with the Democrats. His old feeble, fallen, look like a weeble wobble when he walks, has to get a wheelchair. He's a pathetic man. But man, he's all giddy now. Get to go to war. You know why? Because he's bought and paid for by the military industrial complex. And he's on his way out and he sees dollar signs. Man, I get to make a couple millions and some kickbacks. That's what it's about to him. He's a piece of shit. But the majority of Republicans, and especially the Republicans in Donald Trump's administration, is not like that. So I'm going to say this. Because of that, because I trust, and I'm, like I said, I'm going to give the deficiencies and I'll give you a preview. The deficiencies is communication. I support the decision that Donald Trump made because I feel strong that if President Trump authorized this strike, and he did, it was because intelligence was presented that we just don't have access to and we won't. That's why we have to have trust. And I understand people losing trust in government as a whole, even losing trust in this administration because of some of the, I'm not going to use the word failures. I don't think they're failing as a whole, as a mission. I think they're failing in communication and messaging. I strongly feel like there was intelligence that showed a real threat to our national security. So I trust his motive. I trust his motive wasn't global policing. I trust that his motive was protecting America and is protecting America. I strongly believe that. Sometimes leadership requires acting on information you just can't share. And I get that. It goes back to messaging and telling us. And I'm going to spell out in a minute where I think they're failing in messaging. And I think that that's what is happening here. I think they are America first and they are protecting Americans. But I just think they're failing in that goal. So let's go to the communication part. I feel like now when I say Caroline Leavitt is the press secretary. She delivers the message. She's not the communication director. The communication director is a man named Stephen Chung. I feel like he has got to go. He needs to be replaced. I think Caroline Leavitt does a fantastic job juggling what she's having to juggle with all the counterproductivity that she has to deal with. Let's dive into that. Stephen Chung is responsible. Now, I don't know, of course, the inside workings. I don't know if he's being handcuffed, if he's trying to get his arms wrapped around this thing. But somebody's got to get their arms wrapped around the messaging because it is absolutely horrible. It's about two things that need to be spelled out. That's not being spelled out. Goals and objectives. And I'll dive into the difference in what both of them are. This is what it's about. Two things, goals and objectives. What is our goal? What's the end result? The goal. Then the objectives is how do we get there? That hasn't been spelled out. Well, here's the problem. There's too many cooks in this stew. Too many cooks spoil the stew. This administration, their biggest failure is not the actions that they take. Man, they take some good actions and doing some good stuff. But what it looks like, chaos and confusion and havoc, is because there's too many cooks spoiling this stew. You have everybody jumping in. You've got Hegseth, which he's the Secretary of War. That's his job. Then you have Marco Rubio. You've got too many people tweeting and talking. They're contradicting each other. There's no centralized messaging. There's no tactical communication plan. It's just it looks like they are just freestyling and operating off the seat of their pants because the messaging is saying that they're not doing that. They have a goal, they have an objective, and it's not being spelled out because too many people. I'm surprised that Kash Patel and Pam Bondi hasn't figured out their way to start messaging about this. They get involved in everything, and it just fucks everything up. So somebody has got to get their arms wrapped around this communication plan. And Stephen Chung, it's his job. It's Stephen Chung's fault. Like I said, I don't know if he's being handcuffed by the president, by Susie Wiles. I don't know who is causing this, but that's where the failure is at the communication director level. He should have the autonomy. He should have the power to wrap his arms around this thing and get it under control. It should be nobody should be releasing any statements, doing any interviews, unless it goes through Stephen Chung first. He has got to manage this entire operation when it comes to the communication. That's because that's where they're failing. And in my opinion, that's the only place they have failed. This immigration disaster really wasn't a disaster. The communication plan was a disaster. Too many people giving interviews, too many people tweeting, too many people doing these things. That's where the disaster. It's appearing like a disaster when it's really not. It's really organized. It's really tactical and strategic. But it's not appearing that way because the communication plan is an absolute disaster. So goals and objectives. So what a goal is, if you have an operation, look, now I did operations at a local level, at a high level, but at a local high level. I did large scale operations on the local level. The first thing you're looking at when you do a large scale operation is what's the goal? The big picture. The goal is the big picture. What's the outcome do you want to achieve? It's going to be broad. It's going to be general. And a lot of times, unfortunately, it's going to be long term, but spell out the goal. This is what our goal is. The characteristics of goals are broad and strategic, focused on the end result. And it's not always easily measurable, but it's about communicating it. This is what our goal is. You know, look at from a government and a private sector. Look at from if you own a business. So if you're if you were in law enforcement and had the job that I had before, what's the number one goal? It's broad, improve community safety. Okay. If you are have a business, what's your goal for the year? Grow my business. Maybe you got some personal goals. I want to get in better shape. Well, that's your goals. That's your broad range goal. Then the next thing is, what's the objective? How do I get there? It should be specific and measurable. It should be action oriented, and it should be clearly defined. This is how I'm going to get to my goal. That's where they are failing. That's where this administration is failing. Now, they're failing on communicating it. I promise you, these are some competent, high-level men and women operating this. So they absolutely have the goals They know the goal and they have the objective how to achieve it. We are in chaos and in controversy, and people who normally agree with each other are disagreeing because of one reason: the messaging, the poor messaging by this administration. And it has been the most haunting thing in the past year. So, my advice would be figure out where the problem is. I say it's with Stephen Chung. He is the communications director. So if somebody's handcuffing Stephen Chung, find out who that is and clip that person. If he has been given the full autonomy that he should have been given, and this is on him, then fire him for not wrapping his arm around this thing and getting the messaging under control. Because right now, I'm going to say it one more time. It has the perception of chaos when it's really not. It is not chaotic. It is organized, but the poor messaging, the poor communication, the tactical plan, the strategic communication plan is the failure and has been the failure of this administration for a year. And it is tragic because they have done some fantastic work and they are not getting the credit they deserve. And the Republicans as a whole are suffering and going to suffer in the midterms because of the poor messaging and the poor strategic communications plan by the White House. That's who's responsible. So Mama Luke of the day. Well, she has made several appearances. Maybe she won't make as many appearances since now she was going to be unemployed. Jasmine Crockett. She is Mama Luke of the day because she showed she just showed her typical self. She's a racist. She is a complete buffoon. But she got her ass handed to her by Democrats, the people she panders. And the Democrats said, you ain't representing us, Jasmine. You don't represent us. All your rhetoric, all your bullshit, all your racist comments, they don't represent us. We want somebody else. That guy's a clown too, but we want somebody else. But the reason she is Mama Luke of the day is who does she blame? The white man, the white Republican. It is the Republicans' fault that the Democrats said, we don't want you. So she ended her political career in typical Mama Luke fashion. So congratulations, Jasmine. You're once again Mama Luke of the day. So tomorrow, I'm going to break down further into why the crisis that we are facing in every facet of the world comes down to one thing. It comes down to immigration. It comes down to illegal immigration into this country and criminals. I'm going to give you the numbers. I'm going to give you the stats. I'm going to give it to you. It's facts. We've got to clean up this house, the house of America. We have been infiltrated because of poor liberal immigration policies. We have been infiltrated. So the threat is from within right now. The Democrats are all right. We should be worried about the sleeper cells. But you motherfuckers, you created this, you bunch of clowns. So yeah, that is a problem. So back tomorrow, same time, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. And until then, remember, nobody's coming to save you. The world does not give a fuck. McGee is out.